everyone, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new, welcome. My name is Meg, and today we're discussing episode 2 of The Bachelorette with Becca. Welcome back to another episode of Bachelorette Talks, and boy, oh boy, do we have a lot to discuss today. Alright, so first of all, let's go back to last week and sort of readdress a little bit of what was going on with Garrett. So basically, in case you missed the first episode and all the drama that was going on with Garrett, he was found doing some shady stuff on Instagram that seems a little bit suspect to his character and what his beliefs are. So he issued a formal apology, as much as I feel like Becca and ABC was trying to deflect from this situation. He did issue an apology owning up to his actions, which is good, but I feel like I have a slight issue with his apology. Basically, he said, "To those who I have hurt and offended, this is all new to me. I went on The Bachelorette for the adventure and possibility of falling in love, not fame. I didn't know what to expect once the show aired. I am sorry to those who I offended, and I also would like to take full responsibility for my likes on Instagram that were hurtful and offensive." He listed his old Instagram handle and said it was his formal handle. He decided to take it down and start fresh because he had learned an extremely valuable lesson. I'm taking steps to grow, become more educated, and be a better version of myself. I'm not perfect. I will never be anywhere close to, but now I will always be more informed and more aware of what I'm liking and supporting, and not just on Instagram, but in life. I never realized the power behind a mindless double tap on Instagram and how it bears so much weight on people's lives. I did not mean any harm by it. My Instagram likes were not a true reflection of me and my morals. I do not want my social media to define who I am, and I will take better care moving forward to support all walks of life. Again, I sincerely apologize and am sorry for any hurt, damage, or offense I have caused. I feel like he just feels bad that he was caught and he is just trying to save face. His apology didn't really seem heartfelt or genuine. That is just my opinion on it. And then ABC also said that they try to do a good job of scrubbing contestants' social media accounts, and they even admitted that it's difficult to scrub likes off of someone's account with such a small following. So it's kind of very interesting to know that they are sitting there, and instead of trying to pick decent contestants, they just rather pick whomever and just scrub their social media of any wrongdoing that they may have done in the past. I mean, I'm sure we all have things that we have said that we may have regretted, or done things that we've regretted, but I feel like they need to be a little more careful because there's really no excuses with the gentleman on Rachel's season that was caught doing some pretty racist things. So instead of scrubbing accounts, maybe pick better people, ABC. Just a thought. Moving along, I have a lot of notes from tonight's episode because as it is only episode 2, there was so much drama. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we all suffered through Arie's season, but I feel like that gave us Becca, and I feel like even though this is just episode 2, she is killing it as a Bachelorette. I love it. I feel like this is one of my more favorite seasons. I'm so happy that we have her, and unfortunately for her, unfortunately for us, we had to suffer through Arie to get to her, but I'm so happy that she is on. So I'm going to be referring to my notes because I wrote a lot down. So, to kick things off, in typical Bachelor fashion, they had their little obstacle course that involved a fake wedding. I feel like every season they have some kind of version of this. So on this group date, there was Clay, Nick, Chris, David, Jean Blanc, Jordan, Connor, and Lincoln. Jordan, I'm going to come out and say it, he annoys me, and he's worse than Crystal in my opinion. So far, he's just so obnoxious, just the quotes that he says. And there's just such a theme. I'll get into it later because it's already getting me bothered, but I know it's a repeated theme throughout the episode, so I will hold off for a second. But Jordan says that he has beat good-looking guys all the time. Okay, that has nothing to do with this competition. This isn't a modeling competition. Your looks can only get you so far, buddy. Becca basically tricks the guys into thinking that they're getting a day of pampering. They're in these nice tuxes, and then she throws a wham bam at them, and they have to go and get dirty and muddy, covered in cake, covered in oil, run through this obstacle course. They do a number of things on the obstacle course where it came down to there being 4 cakes and only 2 rings, and the first person to the end of the aisle wins the competition. These are men, and they are highly competitive, and they were kind of alluding to the fact, no cheating, no cheating, no cheating. They said it over and over because there was one section in the obstacle course where they all had to duck themselves into ice cold water until a timer ran out. They said, do not touch your timer, do not cheat, do not get out before. And here we have Lincoln, who I praised last week. I thought he seemed like a really good guy. I still have mixed thoughts about him. But we see him going like this, like trying to like make the timer run out faster, and according to a couple of guys, which let me just say that Chris, who instigated in the first episode, was the first one to say he cheated. He got out before the time ran out. So I feel like he's definitely going to be a pot stirrer for this series. And then who else? Somebody else speculated that Lincoln cheated and got out before time ran out. And I would just like to say it came down to it when it got down to the cakes. It was between Lincoln and Connor. And I will also say that both of them cheated at this cake part because they were told, do not use your hands, and several times we see them grabbing at the cake with their hands. Which is just gross because the whole point was to use your mouth, and like you have mud sludge on your hands and you're grabbing at this cake you're supposed to be eating. But yeah, they both totally cheated at that. So there you have it. Anyways, it came down to Lincoln being the first one at the end of the aisle and winning the competition with Becca. They got their picture taken together, which Lincoln was very proud of. And he was kind of like, oh, look at this, I won, which there's always gloating when it comes to these competitions, and then we kind of see him off to the side being like goofy with the picture, and you can see guys standing off in the corner like being so annoyed at him. But I kind of can't blame Lincoln for that because these people that are on the show are literally stuck in a house all day, like without phones, without TV, without music. I don't even think they're allowed to have, I think I heard somewhere that they're not even allowed to have books. So, you know, you gotta get creative, and if you want airtime, you gotta get creative. So I feel like that was just a little bit for show. I don't think he was being like super obnoxious about it, but then again, we only see little clips, so who knows. Here is where I made a note. I said fragile egos everywhere you go, because this is like literally like 90% of the guys the entire episode also fragile with their egos. So Connor gets like really butthurt, and this is such a bad sign for him. He made himself look so bad on national TV. Basically, he gets really annoyed that Lincoln put the picture on the table. I mean, can you blame the guy? Where else was he supposed to put it? But he puts the picture on the table, he flips it down, being like a childish, pouty little kid. And then Lincoln goes, no, it's like not even looking at you, like let's put it back up. And I think that he was just doing it like in a playful kind of way, and then Connor went from like 0 to 100 and just like tossed it behind the couch. And Lincoln went up, got his picture, put it back, and then Connor threw it as hard as he could, shattered it, and it ended up in the pool, which was pretty intense and uncalled for. And for me, that right there is like reason enough for you to go home, because you're showing signs of aggression and signs of violence, and that is never okay. And that is definitely not something that you want in a partner. Another thing about Connor that again, wasn't helping him. Basically, Lincoln, of course, goes to Becca, and, you know, people can say it's saddling, but she has the right to know that he was acting, like, very aggressive like that. I could see if he was just, like, flipping the picture down, and that's all he did. If he went and told Becca, then, yeah, that would be, like, childish on Lincoln's part. But Connor acted very aggressively and, like, very, like, not very violently, but there was, like, a lot of aggression behind what he did. So Lincoln wanted Becca to know about it, and I feel like that's something like anyone should have told her about. And basically Connor is overhearing Lincoln talking to Becca about what happened, and you could just like see the steam coming out of his ears. Of course, once Lincoln is done talking, Connor has to go in and explain his side and come to his defense. And I felt like he really stumbled around on his words here, and then he said that Lincoln totally blew it out of proportion. I I don't think he did. And it was not the gentleman way to handle it. But I'm sorry, is acting like I'm gonna say it now. These men use the term gentleman for acting like whiny toddlers. Like, a gentleman would not take a picture and act aggressive like that. That's not what a gentleman would do. That's like the opposite of what a gentleman would do. And this, like, so many of them hide behind the term gentleman, which basically at this point is like gentleman, aka asshole. I get that Becca's in a position where she doesn't really know what to believe. I feel like if it was me, I would have wanted to talk to the producers and like seen a clip of what happened, but Connor totally, like, in my opinion, he should have been done right then and there. He should have gone home. And then another thing, poor Lincoln again was crying the next day, and I get it, it can be like a little bit like, oh, it was just a picture, da 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 da. But the guys were basically talking shit about Lincoln for crying, but he was not the only man to be emotional that episode, so you can kind of see where like some bullying strategies are coming in and like how people are like kind of forming their own groups and alliances so early on. But I just also wanted to point out on the group date when Lincoln, he thought he had it in the bag, he thought he was going to get that rose, and his face when he didn't get the rose was kind of priceless. So who did get the rose? Our cologne connoisseur, Jean Blanc, got the rose. I mean, a guy that talks about cologne that way, you know he's gonna try to sit there and charm the pants off Becca, and it worked. Becca seems to have a pattern in this episode where she is giving the roses to people that talk about futures and talk about, you're my missing puzzle piece, and I want this in the future, and I want someone that's a teammate. Basically saying similar things to her. That is who she tends to be favoring in the competition. But I feel like it's a little too early to tell how genuine those statements really are. Not to say Jean Blanc was being disingenuous, just a general statement. So, first, the one-on-one date was with Mr. Blake, and unfortunately there were no exotic animals involved in this date. I was sitting there smiling the whole time during this date. I thought it was so cute. I think that Blake is a sweet guy. But unfortunately, which ended up being fortunate, Becca's past came back to haunt her. They're in this warehouse somewhere downtown LA, and we see all this Arie memorabilia, and the infamous couch is even there. There are TVs playing her proposal on in the background. Little John was there. And basically, she got to have her Carrie Underwood / Beyonce moment and just smash a bunch of stuff. And I will say, hitting a champagne bottle with a baseball bat is pretty epic. That is my kind of date, not necessarily like stuff that's like my ex's, but like just going on a date and just like smashing and breaking a bunch of stuff just sounds like so much fun. But I felt a little bit bad for Blake because like the whole date was like reminiscent of her ex. But at the same time, it was fitting that Blake was on that date because he said once you fall off the horse, you got to get back on. And I felt like that was like part of an ending, like the very ending chapter to her past with Arie. So I felt like it was a little bit significant that Blake happened to be on that date with her. So once the smashing was over and they were on their dinner date, they really seemed to open up and bond about a lot of similar things. I think that Blake is going to make it pretty far into the competition because it seems like him and Becca are a lot similar. The only thing to me is that he said that he fell hard and fast in a 2-month relationship and he was going through the girl's phone, which seems a little bit shady, but I think we can like give him a pass for now and just see how he is on the rest of the show. Next up, we have to have our physical date with the group. So we are doing dodgeball with Garrett, Ricky, John, Ryan, Alex, Chris, Trent, and Leo. By the way, I read somewhere that Garrett did not get the first kiss on the first night. I read that Leo did, so. And then there was Wills and Colton on the date as well. So the two guys on the season so far without date cards are Jason and Mikey. So, I mean, Mikey did bring a cardboard cutout of Arie, so I'm actually like surprised he made it through. He seems like a really good guy, but like that was a bold move. So these kids for this dodgeball were savage. They were like, no prisoner gets to go. They were riding the guys so hard. It was so funny to like see them yelling at them. To me, Leo really stood out in this episode. Of course, he's a stuntman, so he's like super like hippity boppity all over the trampolines and super athletic. And that was like a benefit to him, and he creamed the entire green team in round 2. And as somebody from Cleveland, I will have to say Leo was like the LeBron James and the green team was like the Golden State Warriors, and that is just like how that whole date felt to me. But in the end, the green team ended up winning, but Leo is the real MVP here, okay? After that activity ended, it was time for the regular group date, and I felt like Colton was being really quiet because remember in the last episode of Bachelorette Talks, I said Clay and Colton seemed like the sweetest guys. Like they were playing up their stories to make them seem like gems, and I was like a little suspect because they did that with Crystal last season. So I'm like, what is gonna happen with one of these two guys? And we get the bombshell that Colton here had a weekend relationship date. He was struggling to come up with the word for a weekend hookup with Tia from Arie season as well. So now I feel like all the focus is going to come off Garrett and come on to Colton and be like, what the heck? So basically Colton is supposedly a virgin, but he spent a weekend with Tia, and I do have some tea on that. So let me jump into that really fast. There was a podcast that Raven and Adam, and Raven is supposedly like one of Tia's best friends. They were on a podcast together where it was discussed about Colton and Tia hooking up prior to filming, possibly after he'd been cast, but before Becca was cast as a Bachelorette. And there's a theory that he hooked up with Tia because he thought Tia was going to be the lead. Basically what happened at the end of this specific podcast episode, the host was saying that he wanted to invite Tia to the podcast, and Raven and Adam were talking about questions to ask her, and Adam said ask her about a guy she never met in real life but was flown out to him for one weekend. Ask her about what happened at that weekend. And then the topic was changed. Apparently, allegedly, when Colton was watching Arie season, he really took a liking to Tia. He even tweeted about it. He followed Tia on Instagram and she followed him back. They DM'd and started talking. He asked her if he could fly her out to LA for the weekend. She went and they hooked up. Colton was hoping Tia would be the Bachelorette, but when Becca was announced, he ghosted Tia and went on the show. Colton was on the Manny and Petty date, and Tia and all of Becca's friends were on. Tia told Becca about their past, and Becca had to deal with it. I feel like the producers persuade Becca to eliminate him at the final 4 so he can be on Bachelor in Paradise, and his storyline with Tia can then continue. She may have wanted to keep him until the final 3, who knows. Caitlyn said she wanted to keep Ben until the final 2, but the producers didn't want that, so Ben could be the Bachelor. This just goes to say that producers have so much more control over this show. And it was just so painfully obvious that Becca just like wanted to be done with him right then and there. And, you know, at the rose ceremony, she like really let him know he was like on the shit list by calling him last. You could just tell she was over it. She wanted to send him home, but because Tia was going to be on the next group date, they wanted that confrontation, they wanted that drama, so I'm sure they tried to persuade Becca to keep him on so we could have that all unfold. But poor Becca, because when he told her, her face just like literally dropped because she was so excited about him. And it is kind of weird to be like dating someone that your friend hooked up with and like, see, this is where like they're all friends, but how do you not know? Like, how do you not know that they had a weekend together? And then it's like they are alluding in the preview that none of the other girls knew that Tia and Colton hooked up either, but they're all like best friends. This calls Colton's character into question because it's like, are you here for the right reasons? Are you only on the show because you hoped it was Tia? Like, what are you doing here? Basically, like, what is your end goal? Are you just here so you can get a spot on Bachelor in Paradise? Like, what's the tea? I guess we'll find out. Basically, at the end of this dodgeball date, Wills is the one that gets the rose because he made a sweet comment about his parents and them celebrating their 50-year anniversary. Again, longevity, like really seeing a future. I want what they want. Becca like eats it up. So basically, roses are going to the guys that are seriously talking about their futures and who she relates to the most with what she wants in a partner. So now we come to the rose ceremony. And we have Clay, who is trying to lighten the mood by showing Becca like football celebrations, and I mean, he tried. It was cute, I guess. I don't know. Bless him. He really does seem like a sweetheart though. And then Connor, ugh. He comes up with this picture of his face covered in cake and was like, oh, here, you can throw it, ha ha ha. He still should be gone, in my opinion. I'm not giving him any more talking time. And then we have Jordan, who's stripping down to his underwear, and then he makes a comment, I want her to fall for my personality. I'm like, your personality of what? Being vain? And this is where I start to get annoyed with Jordan, because he was reading the other guys to filth about not being dressed appropriately and reading a room, and a gentleman is always dressed appropriately, and he wasn't wearing socks with his shoes. Ugh. And here he is at a rose ceremony in his damn underwear. I also have a quote from Jordan saying, living life on the edge like a gentleman. And I'm like, you mean acting like children and hiding behind the comment gentleman? Like, this is what I mean. It's a common theme. These guys are using the word gentleman to act like children and to act like assholes. And it's just really annoying. And I'm so tired of it. And I know I have an entire season of it coming. More contradictions from Jordan. Not only was he reading the guys to filth about not being dressed appropriately, he's still talking about David being dressed as a damn chicken while he's standing around in his damn underwear. Jordan makes no sense. He is just all about the drama. And then David's sitting there asking, why is Jordan even here? Like, really, like, production wants him here. He's entertainment. Duh. It is like painfully obvious that Jordan is so not Becca's type. So I feel like in this rose ceremony, she's being forced to save two guys, Colton and Jordan, for the sake of production. So the gentlemen who went home, Alex, Trent, and Ricky. So now I'm gonna go through the guys that got roses and like my predictions of them. Chris, he is a total pot stirrer this season, so I feel like that's why he got a rose. Now we're like 3 people for like other reasons that may have gotten roses. Jason, John, I like don't really know much about them. They're not really getting airtime. Clay, we've seen a lot of. Mike, I'm waiting to see more of him because I still want to have high hopes for him. Connor, I absolutely despise. Leo, I like really want to see Leo like stick it out far. Like, he's like the underdog in the competition, and I like Leo so much because he's so different than the other guys. He is like not about being prim and proper. He's not all, I'm a gentleman. Like, he is so different, and I think his age has a lot to do with it. I think he's like one of the older guys on the show, but I'm really rooting for him just because he doesn't seem like a complete ass. Of course, we have David the chicken is still around, and he is also a little instigator. I don't think he's quite as bad as Chris, but he's starting to get there. Garrett, of course, he was pretty neutral this week. Nick, Ryan, Kristen, again, they haven't been getting a lot of airtime, so I don't have much opinion about them. Jordan, my notes I put worse than Crystal in all caps, and he totally is. I mean, he could have at least put a shirt on for when they were actually handing the roses out instead of staying there looking like a damn fool wrapped up in a towel. Like, come on, dude. And then, of course, we have Lincoln. I am excited to see his storyline because I'm still like, which way are they going to go with him? Like, is he good? Is he bad? Is he just misunderstood? I don't know. I can't wait to find out. And, of course, Colton was the last one to receive the rose. Probably the one that Becca did not want to give a rose to at all. And he has a very sad attempt at the end by giving a toast that says, to well-dressed men. Again, with these comments, I can't deal with it. And to a beautiful lady in blue. And it's like, come on, dude, like, really? Lastly, in the preview for next week, of course, we see the girl Manny Petty date, and Tia is there, and there's going to be some kind of confrontation with Colton. And it seems like Becca can move past it because last week they showed like a preview of the entire season. Colton was in a lot of the clips, so it seems like she can move past it, but I guess we will find out. But it all seems like a scheme for Bachelor in Paradise, but I'm excited for the next episode. I am so happy to sit here and say, like, I'm so pumped for these next episodes. Again, Becca is killing it. If you don't want to miss out on my other episodes of Bachelorette Talks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Let me know your top picks in the comments down below and what your theories with these guys are. I would love to hear from you guys. I love discussing this show. Thank you so much for being here and for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.